Hey, everybody, welcome back to another exciting edition of the world's greatest shoe-in podcast, Footwear podcast, the Shoe and Show. We're glad that you're here. I'm very excited about this conversation today, Sandy, because we're in the middle of kind of our new leadership series powered by Ortholite, and those are dropping every other Monday. But in the off Mondays, we get back to the nitty-gritty, the business side of things, like unpacking what consumers are thinking, how they're feeling, what's happening in trade, sourcing, and retail. And so our conversation today is really trying to tap into that premium consumer because they are so vitally important to driving success and profitability for our members, particularly in the premium space. So today we have an expert, Sandy, who's on Shoe and Show with us today.
Yeah, thanks for co-hosting with me today, Matt. I am thrilled to have on our Shoe In podcast, Mike Keisman, Head of Research and Innovation for MakerSights. Welcome to the show. Hello, Mike.
Hi there. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm very excited to be here.
We're excited to cover a lot of topics related to the premium consumer, shopping trends, as Matt shared. But we'll start off by asking a little bit about who is the premium consumer. Tell us about how you identify that person.
Yeah, so the premium consumer is, not quite like, say, the luxury consumer. I think it's really important to distinguish between those two. The premium consumer is someone who really values kind of a high consideration purchase. It's not really, let's say, an indulgence purchase. They really value things like, quality, durability, and long-term value. They really want to feel premium in the products that they buy. And it's really not about, let's say, hype or brand name. It's about, let's say, brand trust. And it's, not always about how it looks either. It's about how it wears, ages, and kind of reflects who you are. So, that's a couple little tidbits about the premium consumer to kick it off.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that insight. So for us, we just had our exec summit in Washington not too long ago, and we were tracking consumer sentiment right now. The University of Michigan has this consumer sentiment poll, and everyone looks at it politically for a variety of different reasons. We're not going to do a deep dive into that. But what struck me at that moment was that all consumers, all category consumers are a little spooked right now. So the notion of the insights that you're providing right now vis-a-vis this report and this analysis, Mike, is so critically important because it's maybe even harder than ever to get people in the door. So once you get into the door, what really stands out for the premium consumer? Or what are some things that you're seeing at brick and mortar that really is driving sales?
Yeah, so I think you're exactly right. It really is more important right now to, target the premium consumer kind of more than ever, as you said, with the global uncertainty, tariffs, inflation. The consumers who are probably feeling it the hardest are probably in the lower income brackets. But in that premium consumer bracket, a little bit higher income, things like that, they're still spending. They're maybe, let's say, buying a little less, buying more thoughtfully. But when they do buy, they're looking for the best version of something. And when they find that, they're willing to pay for it. I think one of the big stats that we have in our deck is that that top 10% of earners drive nearly 50% of consumer spending. So this group has real purchasing power. They're not really pulling back. They're just really getting more intentional. If they're going to buy one thing, they're going to really look for what's worth it. So that's kind of what we're looking at from a macro level.
That's great. I mean, I think that intentional shopping and buying is definitely the trend right now. In terms of impulse shopping, is that still happening, or are people pulling back on that? Click to buy. I'm on social media. I'm scrolling at night. Something pops up, by an influencer or a friend, or someone, that's representing the brand. Is that still happening?
So we're not seeing that as much. It's really less impulsive or less indulgent, say. It's really more, as you said, thoughtful, careful consideration when they're looking for products. So they're really diving deep into, let's say, the quality, the materials, the craftsmanship, to really try to, get the product that's going to, feel right for them, make them feel premium, make them feel confident. And, we're seeing that across the board from some of our clients as well as some of the, research that we did in the Premium Consumer Report.
Tell me who is influencing those shopping decisions.
who's influencing those shopping decisions. So it's actually really kind of multi-targeted. Premium consumers really don't, you know, discover products from one place. They go into, different types of, mindsets when they're shopping. They could see things on Instagram and TikTok, but there are also a lot of like in-person benefits for that premium consumer. If they go into the store, they have a good shopping experience. They have good, store staff who are knowledgeable about the products. So, it's really, maybe digital, maybe physical, but, we tell our partners is, we don't have to be everywhere, but, wherever you are, be great. And so that's really how, premium consumers are shopping. It's very multifaceted and things like that. So
I'm actually surprised that the impulsivity factor is down a bit, because I'm like the most impulsive dude when it comes to shoes. Like my wife's like, really? You need another pair? And I'm like, yeah, I do, because this new drop was amazing, or they reissued this awesome shoe from when I was a kid, or this new collab is just really driving something I'm interested in. So it's almost too easy to buy stuff nowadays. And I'm like, I'm the poster child of that. It's a problem. I know I'm seeking help, but that being said, what about friends and family? Is that something that really drives how premium consumers think about product? Or are they just like, you know what, I'm my own person, I'm going to do my own thing, I'm going to buy what I want, and friends and family, I'm not really caring what you're thinking about?
Friends and family are often, a good recommendation engine for brands. For premium consumers, it's not the be all end all. Once again, it's very multifaceted. They're going to take a lot of different things and a lot of different opinions from, let's say, online reviews, friends and family. They're going to look into store staff. They're going to make their own decisions. They're going to do their own kind of research. And it's a very calculated decision that we're seeing. So it's really not just about one thing or the other. Of course, people are obviously influenced by their friends and family at certain points, but we do see premium consumers having their own mindset, their own style, their own attitude. So they are their own people as well. So I think it's a little bit of everything.
Fair enough. I'd love to hear your take on what the brick and mortar experience looks like today. And what kinds of things that certain retailers and specialty retailers, independents are doing that are influencing these consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once again, I think store staff are super important in this space. I know in my past life, so I before MakerSights, I was most recently the head of consumer insights at Echo Shoes, which calls itself a premium brand. And we know that the store staff is so critical to kind of that premium experience. This shoe costs $200. Why is that? How, you can't just sit there and look and touch and feel, which is great. But having that store staff, really elevate the experience and being super knowledgeable about the products, why they cost so much, why they're worth it, how long they're going to last is super important. I also think in terms of brick and mortar, look and feel and kind of that attitude is super important. When you walk into a store, you want to feel that premium experience. You want to, feel like you are, going in somewhere where, you're treated right, you're treated special, as well as, talking with someone who's knowledgeable, who's done this before, to really get that right product into your hands. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because all shoppers are different. Some of us just want to go in and find and not be bothered. I'm not saying that's me. I actually don't mind the sit and fit experience, to be honest with you. When you roll into a Nordstrom at Tyson's Corner here in Northern Virginia, and I've seen the Nordstrom team talk about how important it is and they really empower their salespeople on the floor to build those relationships. That is, to me, that's the premium experience. Even if you're not even buying premium product, or maybe you're buying the premium or luxury product, I should say. I think to me, that's what really drives that experience. And I often find that even if I'm not in the mood to go down that road, if I'm looking for a pair of shoes or even a new suit or whatever I'm purchasing, I always find that extra attention was actually well worth it, particularly if they know what they're talking about. And a company like Nordstrom just comes to mind as just pros at that. But how has the market evolved, Mike? Has there been an evolution with the premium consumer that our viewers and listeners should be tapping into, or or something that's coming down the road that you think is critically important to know?
Yeah. So I think, the main shift is, and what was really surprising in our report was kind of how grounded that premium shopper is. When you think about a premium or an upper class semi-luxury type shopper, you really think, and assume that this shopper is, chasing logos or exclusivity or, unique drops. But most consumers didn't tell us they cared that much about that. They told us they cared about comfort, fit, materials more than brand prestige. Now, of course, logos and brand matters, but the way to drive that, brand trust with the premium consumer is to create a premium product that's long lasting, that's durable, that's comfortable, that checks all those, bases. This is even the case in like some of our sectors like lifestyle sneakers, where you would kind of expect, more of that hype machine to try to drive things. But even with those consumers, some of them are frustrated by, poor comfort or inaccessible drops. And, this was really kind of a wake up call for us. If you want to go after this consumer, you kind of have to meet them where they are. And they're a little bit more grounded than you would think.
Totally agree with that. I'm interested to hear what your take on is for online shopping. Is the virtual try on, is that like explosive to the point that that is like going to be on every single website, every single online shopping? Is that the biggest thing right now, virtual try on? And how important is that? How important are some of the other things like seamless returns and selection? And what's your take on this?
Yeah. So once again, it's really an omni-channel experience. We actually found that consumers, premium consumers, are really actually more likely to be ones who are still going into store. But that doesn't mean that's the only place you should focus. There is kind of that omni-channel experience. There's a lot of research and discovery that happens, online. Virtual try-ons could be very cool, but I do think at the end of the day, when you're making a purchase at a higher price point and a higher level, consumers may still want to go into the store to see like, hey, is this actually worth it? But then conversely, there are going to be consumers who, just purchases online, which is kind of where that seamless returns and, customer service and experience comes into play. Because if you do then buy a product online and it doesn't, let's say, match your expectations, if you're a premium brand, you want to make that right. Because once again, you have to build brand trust. And if you build brand trust, that's kind of the key to everything. And whether that's with, returns or exchanges, things like that, a consumer may not be happy at first, but if you can nail that experience in a, premium way, in a premium feel, I think that's where, companies can win both online and in store. So.
Mike, let me ask you this. Price sensitivity. We're in this hyperinflationary period. Costs have gone up for footwear over the last few years. They've settled out right now. We're in the calm before the storm. Actually, as this is being published, we've got big retailers, not in the premium space, but talking about price increases, and tariffs are going to be astronomically high in the near future. How sensitive are premium consumers to the inevitability that prices are going to go up for them at retail?
Yeah, so we actually have a really nice section of the report on this. They are sensitive in certain ways, but they also do have some more disposable income. What we did see, we asked a question that, said if a premium product that you were going to buy was increased by 15%, would you still buy it? And the majority of people said that it really wouldn't affect too much, but they would be a little wary. However, if there wasn't a price increase, they did say that they would more frequently purchase those premium products. So we're actually seeing something in a decision that's going to have to be made, because some of these prices are either going to have to increase. But if you don't increase your prices right now, you may end up getting more, market share. You may end up getting, a larger basket size, things like that. And during these kind of tumultuous times, if you can, once again, build trust by being that partner and going through these tough times with your consumer, I mean, the future hopefully will be brighter. That's kind of the way I like to think as well. So, it depends if it's a short-term play or a longer-term play. I think there's, once again, major opportunities for some brands to, keep their prices where it is, build brand trust, grow market share. And I think we're going to see some of that in some places. And the landscape could look a little different in a year or two or three.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about that in a second, but I would agree with you in terms of the fact that price increase matters, but not to these consumers as much because they are shopping maybe a few times a year. Like they're not shopping every single week and buying these products, right? So it matters to them. They're loyal to these brands. I think the brands are really looking forward to getting closer to their consumers, offering something special, doing collabs, offering something extremely different in the stores and brick and mortar and things like that. So I think we'll see some of the trends change at brick and mortar in 2026. I'd love your take. You have a lot of this intel and information and these surveys and all that. What do you predict for this market in 2026 in terms of shopping for premium footwear?
Yeah. I think once again, it's going to be a little difficult at first, but I think once again, there's going to be intentional shopping. So once again, they may buy better, but they might buy less. And I think it's really important for brands to sit there and, really look at what they're offering and showcasing to these premium consumers why their brand or why their product is worth it. So I think there, may be a little bit of a slowdown, but once again, these people do have some disposable income to play with, and I am I'm confident that the premium industry will be all right in the long term. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking what I'm thinking for the next year or two.
Got it. Well, Mike, before we let you go, where should people go and find this report if they're interested in learning more?
Yeah, so you can go to our site, MakerSights.com. You can also check our LinkedIn page. You can also email me personally if maybe I believe we're going to be publishing this in your newsletter as well, Matt. So we'll do that. The premium report is a really nice piece of work on the premium consumer. We also have 6 mini category reports that we can send to anybody. That includes things like performance sneakers, premium lifestyle sneakers, handbags and accessories, outerwear, and premium lifestyle essentials. So we have a lot of good information there. We have a lot of dives into different cohorts, whether that's, let's say, ultra affluent or values driven consumers, even men versus women that we can dive into. But we're really happy to share this one out. It's one of our tentpole pieces of research, and it's been a pleasure to be on the podcast. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights on the premium consumer. And so we'll definitely look forward to having you back, and we'll push people towards that report for sure. For those of you who are watching and listening, thank you for coming on. It's been another exciting edition of our program. Go to shoeandshow.com for all of our episodes, and make sure you subscribe and rate us too. We've been around for a long time, but we still thrive on your ratings. We only take 5-star ratings. It's a weird quirk in our system. I will also say that we have our shoe leadership series that's rocking and rolling. The next one of that series in partnership with Ortholite will drop on Monday coming up. And so go to shoeandshow.com or shoeleaders.com for more information about our leadership series, where we're doing kind of a deeper dive into the ways in which leaders in our industry lead, and what are their principles, and what are the ways in which they show agility and drive diversity of thought and those types of things. So it's a really fascinating series. I've had a blast recording it, and we encourage you to check that out. Well, until next time, thanks again for watching and or listening, or both. And until next time, Shoe and Show is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.